Hello and welcome to the first lunchtime conversation for the Dignified Urban Life campaign. Today is one of the first sort of times that we try to do this, and it's experimental, but we're hoping to have a lunchtime conversation every week to kind of just sum up and put a kind of understanding to the campaign, where it came from, what it emerged from, what the reasons are that we feel we need to have a campaign. This week we're going to start. I've got my colleague Martha Sibanda with me, and she's going to give us some insights into the disaster response and risk toolkit that has been put together through the network, through consultative processes, that is really trying to put into words a process that has already been happening in the Federation throughout the years. And that is the process of there being a disaster, there being a crisis, human or man-made, or disaster, sort of natural disaster, and the network responds. And so, yeah, I'm going to give it over to Martha Sibanda, but a little bit more context just for those who are not familiar. In March 2023, we had a workshop which included youth from a variety of Federation countries, including Malawi, Kenya, South Africa, Sierra Leone, Zambia, Zimbabwe, who came together specifically with the purpose of understanding youth activism within the Federation, and also then responded to crisis. I mean, what is important to note is that this happens after the COVID-19 pandemic, in which our Federation was extremely involved in risk and response. A lot of this work was funded by Warwick University, Manchester University, the Plan International Foundation, and the Skoll Foundation. And as usual, it feeds into the SDI ethos of creating an intersection between data and community action. And so I'm very interested in hearing Martha tell us more, explain more, share more about the sort of Federation efforts in this regard. Okay, I'm handing over to you.
Thank you so much, Simone. Yeah, for those who don't know me, my name is Martha. I'm a senior programs officer, and I will just take you through the outline of the SDI Network Disaster Risk Response Toolkit. And like my colleague said, this was an effort of different stakeholders from the network. And the aim of the toolkit is to position, the network positions itself that we have been doing disaster response over the years, and we want to enhance our efforts and prepare more and respond better. And this toolkit, it has at least 9 sections. And the first one is introduction. The introduction positions or introduces who SDI is as a network of slum dwellers, and also provides 3 reasons as to why SDI Network considers itself best positioned as responders to urban crises or disasters. And we will look at these 3 reasons or areas later under section 5. So the second section looks at the purpose and scope of the toolkit. It provides background or rationale how the SDI network continues to face many disasters or shocks. And it provides how communities are left overwhelmed or really desperate when they're not in a position to respond due to limited capacities in terms of resources, or just being overwhelmed by the situation. But their aim is always to ensure that there's no loss of lives, there's less damage to their assets or communities. And then this section also looks at how the network believes there's a community-led disaster risk response framework. A disaster risk response framework is best suited to response to issues around disasters. So this also looks at the bottom-up approach, meaning that SDI Network believes being a community-driven network, it is best suited to respond to disasters. And then the toolkit remains a live document. This means it's not a complete document. It will continue to be updated, and this will be based on experiences that are ongoing in communities as they respond to disasters as a network. And then Section 3 looks at the importance of SDI's community-driven approaches. We do know that SDI has successfully been known or built itself as a community-driven community-driven approaches, whereby it has managed to organize itself and use their bottom-up approaches like mapping of climate change disasters, and also looking at how extreme weather events affect them, how it has managed to collect data which is actually collected by communities themselves, which makes it a very important aspect of community-driven approaches, as they own the process. So this is very important. And there's a Section 4 which looks at what are the cross-cutting disasters or shocks that affect the network. This was an issue that were highlighted during the workshop by the young people, and also having Malawi and South Africa present on the experiences, because during that week we had the Cyclone Freddy and the Durban floods, which our affiliates were responding to. So the cross-cutting issues were very common. They've been ongoing, like floods, fires, heat extremes, and man-made induced disasters. So in the toolkit, you will find we have outlined that very well, and obviously it's open for your inputs, as this will come through to everyone. And then we have Section 5, which provides 3 areas why SDI believes they're unique. And in unique, we mean SDI believes they are best suited to respond to disasters. And these 3 reasons are: SDI is known for being organized. And this being organized does support the ability to showcase its work globally. And then point 2, why SDI believes they are best suited to respond to disaster, is ability to do community mapping and just general data collection on different areas, not just in disaster risk management, but also other socio-economic factors that impact their daily lives. And then number 3 looks at the levels, the ability of being able to show solidarity during disaster response, which helps them enhance their resilience. We know disasters, when they happen, it becomes very overwhelming and people are left very desperate. But the fact that the network is organized and they have these structures where they try to support one another, that makes them very, very unique in responding to disasters. And then Section 6 looks at barriers, challenges faced by the SDI network. This is very important because disasters have always been there. They continue to escalate, and communities are really struggling to manage these issues. So these barriers include, I'll just pick 3 of them. There's limited or no enough resources to respond to disaster risk, and this includes resources at the community level or even external resources that that the community would expect or hope that would help them navigate through these challenging times. SDI also is known for being organized, and it's considered a threat to other organizations. This came out of the discussion that being organized and being able to run things to a certain level smoothly because of how they're organized. Some organizations feel that they're a threat, because we know when disasters happen, there's a lot of chaos as everyone tries to come in and give their views and give whatever they are coming in to support the victims of the disaster. So This is very important also. And then the third one, SDI Network believes their barrier around limited or no feedback regarding data. So we have stakeholders or even organization within the network that collect data when disasters happen, or just mapping the possibility of a disaster happening, and then the community feels that they do not get enough feedback. Sometimes they are not aware of what happens to their data when it's collected. So they feel this is a barrier or a challenge that needs to be addressed. But there's also possible solutions or network key lessons through over the years. The SDI network has presented itself as there's always hope that the network need to strengthen their structures so that they can be able to actually address disaster risk response better, or shocks that affect them every day. So the network also feels there's an opportunity as a network for each affiliate to have a context-based disaster risk plan. And a context-based disaster risk plan would help them to be more proactive and not just reactive. Because sometimes it's a cycle of disasters that happen over the year, and in situations where they feel they do not have they're not prepared fully, a disaster risk plan would really help them. And another possible solution or opportunity for the network was need for regular review and update of the action plan. Action plans based on how the needs or the situations evolve, or they navigate, or experiences that they try to respond with the minimum or no resources that they have to manage these kind of situations. So I think the last section is also very important, which is section 8, and this looks at key steps following a disaster. There was a discussion that sometimes it's not very clear how the network manages when a disaster happens. And this was mainly because of limited capacities. But we are saying, or the network is saying, the first step would be ideally conducting an overview of the situation. So when a disaster happens, they need to conduct the situation, what's happening. And the second one is the affiliates believe that there has to be a response plan. Since they have done the mapping of the situation, they need to develop a quick response plan based on already existing plan that they have as an affiliate or an organization. And then the third one would be mobilize for resources. They cannot be effective or efficient disaster response without resources. So the affiliate are saying, as a network, we need to find ways, or better ways of leveraging resources, not only within themselves, through maybe Urban Poor Fund, where they have to find a way of how the Urban Poor Fund can actually support immediate response when a disaster happens. So in addition to being able to negotiate with other partners to support disaster response when it happens. So the step 4, they're saying, would be establishing a coordination. When disasters happen, they're saying we would like, or we want to enhance our coordination. And this would mean there's a team that is fully prepared to coordinate when an event happens. And then the 5th one, or just one of the many, is monitoring and evaluating the project. This is the initiatives that emerge based on a disaster, and to allow for any adjustment as the response continues. So there's it's quite a detailed toolkit, but I think just this framework, which we look forward to sharing with the network so that they can add more inputs, although it was a consultative process. We are looking forward to having this go out to the network for further comments. Thank you, Simone. Over to you.
I just wanted to ask one small question, because I think it will just feed into this knowledge as we build it with the Federation. I wanted to ask whether you feel that sort of the partners that the SDI network has, whether they are funders or universities or research institutes, not whether, but how they could support kind of these disaster risk responses in moments of crisis. So when something happens, it's very often that we scramble, as you're saying in the beginning, to find a coordinated response. And I'm just wondering how we can use these relationships that already exist to create what is the role of relationships in this response framework? I wanted to know.
I think like the toolkit or the affiliates highlighted that relationships are very important, and that's how SDI has managed to become strong. They have managed to leverage or strengthen existing relationships and build new ones. So new relationships are very important from funders or even private individuals that are willing to support disaster risk response or general support to daily shocks or crises the families face. Because we know without support, external support, it's really difficult for disaster response to effectively and efficiently actually take place. So relationships are very important, and it's also what they would say stakeholder building. So yeah.
I love that, and I love that the tool has really started to think about that as well. So I'm going to say thank you, Martha, for this. We're going to put this resource on our social network so that it's available for those who are interested in hearing about it. Next week, Wednesday, we're going to discuss the cyclone in Malawi, Cyclone Freddy, and how the actual way in which this response that you're talking about started to unfold in those conditions in that instance. And so I'm excited to do that. And hopefully this is a resource people can refer back to as they start to understand how SDI responds to disaster. And yeah, I'm excited. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Simone. See you on Wednesday.
See you on Wednesday.